Micah, my friend, thank you so much for joining us today.
Zach, good to be with you again, bud.
Dude, first and foremost, what a pleasure it is always just to sit down with you to catch up. You were at our most recent Extraordinary Women event that was hosted in Lynchburg, Virginia. You crushed it as always.
Come
But man,
on.
before we dive in, we're going to dive deeper into your testimony today, some incredible things God's continuing to do in and through your life. But I wanted to talk because this is my favorite time of the year. I love sweatshirts. I love bonfires. I love football. I love cold weather, Micah. But I also love the holidays that are right around the corner and the traditions that those bring up. For me, I think of a lot of food. I think of games. I think of family. I think of gathering. For you, Micah, what are some of the traditions that you and your wife, Casey, try to enjoy with your children in this upcoming months?
Yeah, I mean, we've got all the regulars. So like we're all going to my grandparents for Thanksgiving, and I've got a big family. My grandparents had 4 kids. They all had 2 or 3 kids. They all have 2 or 3 kids. So there's about 45 of us that descend upon about a mile and a half down the road from me right here where my grandparents live. Here in
Nice.
Una. And so that kind of stuff. Everything Christmas, the same thing. We all kind of get together. We do, hang out Christmas morning and open presents, but we have some fun ones too. One thing that we always do is, so one of our favorite Christmas movies at our house is The Christmas Story.
Yes.
It's with Ralphie and the Red Ryder
Oh,
BB
that's a
gun and the whole thing.
classic.
So we always, on December the 23rd, we watch that movie and we have Chinese takeout at the very end of it. That's like, because they have it in the end of their meal. We eat it while we're eating. So it's just kind of a fun little things like that. And then like I said, we do a lot of going over to this person's house. But at the end of the day, I think that my favorite time is like turning the Christmas lights on, having the tree going, watching the Christmas movie. Mom's got a jam up cocoa recipe that we always make. And so but to me, it's like, it really is this time to kind of draw near the people that you love and just kind of look back on it. It's been a whole year of you getting to experience all kinds of crazy. And so this year, my son Noah is actually attending Liberty University. He's been there since August. And so it is 17 hours and 21 minutes away from us. I know that because we made the drive to get there. And so having him home, we're going to be jamming in a lot of lost time for that too. And so I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving and Christmas. It'll be a little different this year than what it has before, but also, it's just that wonderful time of the year.
It's one of my favorite times of the year as well, my friend, especially that family time. It's so sacred. It made me ask, though, what's your go-to Chinese takeout on December 23rd?
Oh, man, that's a really great question. I didn't know we were going to get this deep into my testimony. No, okay, here's the thing. A house lo mein. You give me the noodle, and then what I like about a house lo mein is like we're going to throw all the meat in the house in this thing.
Come on.
So it's like I have a whole spread, a whole buffet just in one to-go box. I may have a bite of beef and noodle. I may have some shrimp. You throw in a scallop every once in a while. It's all things to all people. It's all creation in one to-go box. So that's kind of where I plant my flag most time.
Oh, my goodness. I love it, Mike. I'm more of an orange chicken, sesame chicken kind of guy and a rice guy, but I love that. Every bite tastes a little bit different. Micah, we touch on family up front because family is the foundation, really, at the end of the day. We think that it's about vertically relationship with God, but horizontally relationships with other people here at Life, Love, Faith, and Family. And something that I noticed, I want to make sure I'm correct. Did you just celebrate in February your 20th wedding anniversary to your wife, Casey?
Yes.
Come on, Micah.
We got married when we were in 7th grade. And no, just kidding. No, we got married young, man. We were both 20. And so this past February was 20 years for us.
Let me ask you, Micah, because my wife and I just celebrated 3 years in September.
Come on.
For a younger couple, younger listeners in our audience today, what's just some words of advice, some lessons that you've learned across your 20 years of marriage?
I mean, I think that every day you have to wake up and choose that person all over again. Because I can celebrate a wedding anniversary doesn't make me any more married than someone who is just in a for us, I'm trying to make sure my wife knows that, like, not only am I legally bound to her and that we have rings that match and that we have a date that we can look back on and that we've got, 10-year anniversary gift that sits over in the corner. But at the same time, it's like, for us, I want her to know that she's the only person that I want to choose to walk alongside of. And I was talking to my daughter. She's 16 years old. We're getting into the dating age. We're trying to figure the whole thing out. And I told her, I said, what I think this world tries to confuse us with is it sounds like that a marriage is about addition, but a marriage is about subtraction. The movies will tell you that it's two broken people who found each other. They complete each other. That's half a person, half a person. Oh my gosh, together make one whole person. But that's not what the gospel says. The gospel says that you are complete in your relationship with Jesus, that he makes you a 100% whole and complete person because of that union with him. So what happens is you take one and one, and all of a sudden when you put into a marriage, two become one. So really it's about subtraction. It's you laying down, denying yourself. It mimics a whole lot of how Christ loves the church, that he would lay his life down for it, that he would choose it, that he would be willing to forgive and slow to anger. And we try to take that into our own marriage too. So 20 years later, I would say pick up your underwear off the floor whenever you're in the bathroom, and also choose that person every single day to love, to cherish, to hold. All the vows that you said 20 years ago, those need to be said every single day for you and that bride.
What a powerful word, Micah. You can compliment each other, but you'll never complete one another. That's only
That's right.
God's role to fulfill. But also, I was at a wedding recently with my wife, Evelyn, and as we were sitting there, the father of the groom got up and he gave kind of like a toast over the couple, a blessing over them, prayed it over them, and he said these words. He said, marriage is not always easy, but he said this, it's pretty simple. Just simply choose each other every single day. Exactly what you're saying, my friend. You know, as we go back, though, I want to click the rewind button because you married your high school sweetheart, Casey. You spent 20 years in marriage with her. But to go back to those early days, you kind of had an unorthodox approach to going into worship ministry. You were in youth ministry for, what was it, 9 years? And then you just so happened to kind of feel led or called into this worship ministry space. Take us back and just give us the whole story.
Yeah, so when I was 17 years old, was born and raised in church. When I was 10 years old, gave my life to Jesus at Vacation Bible School. At 17, I had a youth pastor make this huge impact on my life, and started to see how his ministry really didn't just affect me, but my friends and our community. And I started feeling this calling to we all have a ministry. Like, no matter if you are working a plant job, if you are a stay-at-home mom, you have a ministry right in front of you. But some feel called to a vocational ministry. That's where I felt. So I wanted to be a youth pastor. Started dating my wife when we were seniors in high school. After our senior year, I was still 18 years old. So I built a house next to my parents in 2020, or right before 2020 started. And about a mile from here is Friendship Baptist Church, and they needed a youth director. My wife's grandpa, who was my girlfriend at the time, her grandpa was the chairman of the deacons of this little Baptist church, and they needed somebody to come in there and just watch the kids and make sure they don't like tear anything off the wall, and feed them some pizza every once in a while. And I was like, if I don't have to wear a tie, like, I'm in. And so I started doing youth ministry at 18. Our little youth group started growing. It was a church of about 100, 110 people. Next thing I know, over the course of a few years, we had like 30-something kids coming to this youth group. So like a third of the church is there in this little tiny room packed in the back. And I thought, man, I want to do something special with these kids to make our nights feel like they really mean something. Like, what could I add to this? And I started noticing other youth groups in the area had kids who would lead a couple songs on guitar and lead worship before the youth pastor would preach. So I was like, well, you can't go buy a kid who knows how to play guitar, but I can buy a guitar. Maybe one of the kids in my group would learn to play it. Long story short, they didn't. And so I bought a book that just like taught you a couple chords for a couple of months. I sat in my room and just hammered these chords because no one in my family is musical. We all love music, but no one knew how to play anything. So I'm just kind of like beating around this guitar enough times where finally I felt brave enough to start leading a couple songs on Wednesday nights. Well, I started doing it for 7 years. I had youth pastor buddies in the area call me up and say, hey, can you come play our retreat and come play our camp and that kind of stuff. And then at 27, the Lord just radically changed what faithfulness looked like to us. And I want to make sure people hear this too, because I think sometimes we merit, especially when it comes to the corporate ladder, when it comes to the American dream, we merit things by success, but the Lord has never called us to one day stand before him where he can say, well done, thy good and successful athlete, successful musician, successful minister, successful plant worker, successful stay-at-home mom, whatever that may be. We're called to be faithful servants. And so the Lord changed what faithfulness looked like. It felt like if I kept doing youth ministry, which was a good thing, that God was growing and we saw kids giving their lives to Jesus and going into ministry, and we started discipling kids in this way. If I would have kept doing a good thing, it would have been unfaithful to the calling that God had had in my life. And it was really hard because we didn't have a record deal. We didn't have a tour bus picking us up. We didn't have Mercy Me asking me to go on and do shows with them. We just had this void where God says, if you'll step out of this boat and trust me, I'll teach you how to walk on this water. And that's how it felt. So we sold over half of what we owned. We bought a single-wide mobile home, put on some borrowed land, did some odd jobs. And that was 14. This coming Oh, wow. Yeah, this coming January will be 14 years that we stepped away from youth ministry and just like trusted the Lord with this calling. And can I tell you the honest truth, Zach? I'm still
Yeah.
doing the same thing today that I did 14 years ago, which
Yep.
is getting up and being faithful to what's in front of me, just like marriage. I mean, like,
Yep.
honestly, I'm doing the same thing. I should be doing the same thing today. Now, I have more wisdom. I have
Yeah.
more connections. I have more platforms. I have more opportunity. Like with my wife, I have more relational investment. I have more knowledge. I have more wisdom. But I have to wake up today and choose to be faithful. And for me,
Mm.
it's some days faithful is standing in Radio City Music Hall and playing in an iconic venue. Some days it is literally me sitting next to my son who has ADHD and going, you have to practice patience right now. He's going to get the math, which is they're hanging there a little bit longer. So at the end of the day, like for me today, I'm getting to be faithful by just telling you my story and sharing some time with you, a ministry who I really love and really respect and support. It's like, but at the end of the day, right now, it looks totally different than what it did 14 years ago in a lot of ways. But at the same time, it's very similar to me getting up and saying, God, what do you have for me today to be faithful to? And me just trying to be as faithful as I can to today.
I love what you're talking about choosing this posture, this attitude of faithfulness. Because, Michael, like you said, you guys did sell over half of what you own, and you guys went out, you took the leap of faith. But I've also heard you share some unbelievable stories of God's provision in your life with me in the past, how even in the midst of those valleys where it seemed like you didn't even know where to turn for food, that God would just show up and he would continually provide day after day after day. Micah, share some of those stories with our listeners, especially those that are going through some uncertainties and they feel weary in the midst of this fight.
Yeah, well, let me even go before the music. When I was a youth pastor, I'll never forget, my wife and I, we got married at 20 because we could not wait to be poor. We were so in love. And so you get married at 20 whenever she's a full-time student at college. I had dropped out of college to do youth ministry, and I was doing some odd jobs on the side. But it was paycheck to paycheck at best. And some months those paychecks did not meet up to be able to make the bills paid. And one month she accidentally overpaid a bill. And I remember sitting there. It was a Wednesday night. I was going to go preach that night. It was like 4:00 in the afternoon. And we're just looking at each other, looking at the balance on the account going, okay, we're under. Like, we don't know what we're going to do. And I thought, I don't even know what to eat right now. But my wife told me, I said, are you hungry? I'm going to go make me something for dinner before I go to the church. She said, no, I can't even eat right now. And I remember walking in the kitchen. I opened the fridge, and I remember seeing this. I saw one piece of ham. I saw one piece of cheese, 2 slices of bread, jelly, and crackers. That's what we had to our name.
Yeah.
And I remember going, Lord, look how faithful you are. I can have a ham and cheese sandwich right here. Like, how kind of you to do that. So I made this ham and cheese sandwich. I put it on a plate. I was just about to take a bite when my wife from the other room, who's the sweetest person, who would never do this if she had any idea, it would mortify her if she knew that we had this one sandwich. She goes, I guess make me one of whatever you're making. I'm going, well, there's only one. I have no one, but I didn't have the heart. Zach, I felt as a man, I felt so like I had let my family, my little family down, just me and her. But I remember walking in there, and we laugh about it this day. She was mortified when I told her afterwards. But I remember walking to that little sandwich and thinking I'm being sacrificial. I hand it to her, and she goes, "Oh, so no chips?" I was like, I said, "No, no chips." But I was so embarrassed. I remember going in the kitchen, opening the fridge. I crawled in front of it, and I had jelly and crackers. That was my dinner. It's because of what we had. We go to church that night. I preached my guts out, share the gospel. Kids came to know who Jesus was. After the service is over with, I remember there's this lady named Teresa who used to help out with our youth group. We called her Mother Teresa. She was a school teacher. She's real sweet. She comes up and just goes, hey, I have something for you and Casey afterwards if you want to come by the van. And so we went, and I remember going to her van, and she goes, here. She gave me a little gift bag. We opened it up, and what was inside looked like the most insanely horrible gift we could ever receive in that moment. It was a cookbook. I was going, unless there's some incredible jelly and cracker recipes, I don't know what I'm going to make with this cookbook. And I looked inside, and she had handwritten all of this. And so she was a teacher. My wife was going to school to be a teacher. She said, I know how crazy it is right now. And so these are just super quick. You can throw cans in a pot and make dishes, whatever, like super easy for you to make kind of thing. But yeah, I figured this would be easy for Casey once she does get her teaching job. And I was like, Teresa, that is so kind of you to do that. She said, but you're going to need ingredients. And she opened up the back of that van, and there were like 9 bags of groceries with every single ingredient from the cookbook. And I remember, just like both of us, we told No one knew that we were struggling like that. No one knew that I had jelly and crackers on my breath. No one knew that we had nothing except for the Lord. And he sent a lady named Teresa to just go, and for her, it was just her buying a load of groceries and handing them to us. For us, it was the Lord saying, I am still here. I am still in control. You have not been forgotten. You didn't slip through the cracks. Your faithfulness is not something that I take lightly, and I am even more faithful than what you can comprehend right now. But the thing is, like, that happened, but also, whenever Never Been a Moment, my first radio single, went to Christian radio. I was out on tour with Phil Wickham. It was our very, very first tour being on a bus. Well, what people don't understand about bus touring is that you go out and do shows like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Well, then you go home Monday, Tuesday. Then you go back on Wednesday. You get back on the bus. You do it all over again. Well, I lived in Texas, so I'm not living where the bus is located at. So I had to fly home every time. Well, we are struggling at the very beginning of me getting a record deal. It wasn't like somebody handed me a check and said, now you're a professional musician. It's like, hey, now you are indebted to now make a full-blown record and travel everywhere and all this stuff. And I was actually paying money to be on that tour. So I finally just asked the tour, I was like, hey, would you guys mind if I just lived on the bus a couple of these times when we go home? Can I just stay? And they said, yeah, no problem. So I told them, and they forgot. So I remember being in San Diego, California, waking up at 9 o'clock, sweating because they had turned the bus off on me. They got off. They thought that I was off the bus already.
Oh, my
I was
goodness.
on this bus still, and I remember waking up in the dark going, oh my gosh. But I looked at my phone, and I had like 20 text messages. It was the label. It was my manager. And they're all going, congratulations, you did it. You made it. This is incredible. I was like, what's happening? I look, and Never Been a Moment had just hit top 20. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You really did it. You really made it. And then my wife calls me, and I'm going, oh my gosh, who told her? I wanted to be the one to tell her. And I said, hello. Like, I'm going like she's going to be like, oh my gosh, so excited. She goes, what are you doing right now? And I said, what are you talking about? She said, don't spend any money, okay? And I went, why? She goes, I am so sorry. I thought that I had not paid the light bill yet. So I went and got groceries yesterday. Then I paid the light bill. She said, we're under right now. I said, oh my gosh, are you okay? She goes, no, we're fine. She said, I just gassed up the car and I've got food here at the house, so we're set. I said, well, then we're fine. And it's okay. I've got some merch money. I had $40 in my pocket. I said, I'll go spend this merch money. We'll hang tight. When I come home next week, I'll bring money. We'll put it in the account. We'll be okay. But I'll survive out here. Zach, I walked almost a mile down to a Food Line grocery store. I bought a pack of ham, a pack of cheese, a loaf of bread. I got a case of water, and I walked it back to this bus in the dark. I get back on the bus. I am sweating, eating a ham and cheese sandwich, and out loud, I remember going, I made it. This is what success feels like. But brother, I'm gonna tell you right now, I trust Jesus more because of moments like that, because he was just as kind in moments like that. He was just as present. He was just as loving. In fact, I know him more because even though I was asking for him to be provider in that moment, the Lord's so kind that sometimes we'll ask, hey, can I get to know you in this way? And he'll be like, yes, we'll get to that. But also, I'm going to let you know who I am as protector. I'm going to let you know who I am as sustainer. I got to know who God was as sustainer, taking $40 in my pocket and stretching that for a week to be able to get through what we did. Now, that song ended up going #1 in the country. And we ended up we've had 7 songs go #1 since then on the radio. But at the end of the day, a chart is such an incredible opportunity to celebrate what God's doing in our life. But I'm going to tell you right now, that ham and cheese sandwich that day on the bus was just as kind of God as any plaque that I could hang on my wall for any song that it's done, because at the end of the day, the Lord got to show me how he was sustainer, he was protector, and he was faithful to our family.
Wow. You're listening to Life, Love, Faith, and Family. I'm Zach Clinton. Today we're joined by renowned Christian singer, songwriter, and worship leader, Micah Tyler. Micah, just to hear about you speaking about the kindness of God, even in some of what may have experienced been like the lowest moments of your life, the valleys. It's so encouraging to me because when I see you on a stage, and then I connect with you backstage or in an interview like this, it's not a performance. It's very personal. You can tell that your relationship with God is very real and it's very vibrant. It's very dynamic. It's alive. It's moving. Micah, for you, I want to ask you this because you're on the road a lot. You're doing so many different things. What is it that ultimately drives you? You speak, you sing about grace, you sing about mercy, forgiveness, all of these things that we're so undeserving of, so unworthy of, yet God calls us worth it. What drives you every single day to keep on keeping on?
You know, honestly, Zach, can I tell you what it's not? It's not to sing songs. Yeah. It's not. Listen, I can sing songs in my car as I'm driving my kids to school.
Mm.
It's not for applause. It's not because of stages. Now, I happen to do my songs from stages, and applause is sometimes part of what we're doing. But I'm going to tell you right now, if I call home whenever I am 700 miles away and I tell my family, hey, I am so sorry that I missed your basketball game. Hey, I'm so sorry that I missed your piano recital. Hey, babe, I'm so sorry that I couldn't help you around the house and fix you dinner or bring the kids to school. I'm so sorry that I've missed these big chunks of time. But you should have heard how loud they cheered for me when I sang songs last night. You should have seen how much money I made off of selling T-shirts at a merch table. What kind of dad and what kind of husband am I trying to be to my family? But if I can call home and I can say, hey, tonight, I'm so sorry that I missed all these things, but I got to share the gospel in a way that helped people see the light of the world, that I got to point them and let them know that there is a way, a life, and a truth in only Jesus. That even when the waters won't stop rising, he's with you even then. That they were able to walk free because I told them how God taught me how to walk first. That there is something different in me so there can be something different in them. That's why when I'm writing these songs, like I just got back from a writing week last week. We're about to put out some new music at the top of the year. And so these are always exciting times for me, but also I
Yeah.
get very zoned in because I know that what I'm singing about is life or death for some people. Now, I'm
Yes.
not saying that there's not a soccer mom who's listening to a radio station on their way to go pick up a kid and that it meets them right at the right time and just encourages them a little bit and it's made their day. I'm for that as well. But I'm just telling you right now, I have had stories. The one that sticks out to me the most is there's a girl I met at a merch table and she kind of said, "Can I share my story with you?" I said, "Yes." And she said, I didn't really have a relationship with the Lord.
Mm.
I wasn't raised in a Christian house. I ended up meeting a guy who I thought was nice, but he's a bad guy, and it's a pretty abusive relationship. Next thing I know, I'm pregnant. I don't even really know him. And I
Mm.
went to him, and he told me to go get it taken care of. My parents said, "We're not helping you. We'll get it taken care of." She said, so I found myself making an appointment at an abortion clinic down the road. I found myself driving to the parking lot and sitting in this parking lot about to go in and have a procedure done whenever I just looked at the radio and I thought, what happened if there's something here? Flips through the dials, and all of a sudden, the lyrics to Different come on. I want to be different. I want to be
Mm.
changed. She finds herself just weeping in the parking lot. She said, but I don't know Christian music. I don't know the Lord that well. I don't know if he can actually do anything because all I know is that there's a baby inside of me that I don't know I can actually love well enough to take care of. She said, so I went home. I called inside, canceled the appointment, said, switch it to tomorrow for the same time. Goes home, weeps all night, come back the next day, drives back to the parking lot. Now listen, this is not when Different was on the radio as a
Yeah.
new and current single. This was like a couple of years ago, 5 years after that song had its moment in the sun. She said, I
Wow.
pull into the parking lot. I'm sitting there. She said, I'd never listened to Christian radio station before. And I just said, God, if you want to protect this baby, if you think that I can do this, show me the same song. Flips on the same dial. And all of a sudden, I want to be different. I want to be
Oh.
changed. Then she shows me a picture of her 9-month-old son. And Zach, it's the reason I don't wear mascara to shows anymore. I, I'm just melted because at the end of the
Wow.
day, I realize that if I am to believe that there is life inside of the gospel, if it is what it says that it is, then it's so important for me not to write catchy melodies, not to write things that tickle ears, not to write things that make people feel good. But at the end of the day, if I
Mm.
can write and point back to the only hope that we have, and that is Jesus, then I'm going to
Yes.
keep writing that. I'm going to keep pouring into that. I'm going to keep sending these songs to pastors going, please look at every single line and make sure that I'm not leading someone down a road that is actually not of who Jesus is. And so for me,
Mm.
like I said, the reason why that walks me out of my door is the gospel. It has to be. If it's not, then I am missing everything, including time with my family.
I love that heart. I love that posture, my friend. Again, it goes back to a heart of faithfulness, one that you don't ultimately just want to sing a song, but you want to profess the good news of the gospel each and every day. You talked about that song, though, Different. You know, that was actually one of my college walkout songs at Liberty Baseball. Like,
No way.
I played that because it was just so instrumental in my life. So I wanted to thank you, even like that individual. It has had such an impact on me. But
Come on.
I wanted to go in the backstory of that because it is one of my favorites. I can't just, I'd be remiss not to ask you this question. Wasn't that a song that you wrote, like, as a prayer, very personal to God, like somewhere where it was like, you know what, I don't even want to bring this out of a prayer closet? What did that look like?
So the craziest part about that song is basically what got me a record deal,
Hmm.
which is wild in and of itself. So I short version is I was in Southeast Texas playing on the local Christian radio station. Like they played my music. I'm the only person in
Yeah.
Southeast Texas that has a song on this station. Well, then I became the local opener. So if a band comes through Southeast Texas, they would call me to come open for them. So I ended up opening for Building 429 and Blanca and Sanctus Real, and all of a sudden I opened up for Phil Wickham, who I was a huge fan of. The show went great with Phil. He was super kind to me. He said, come open for me later. So like a year later, I get asked to go to Tyler, Texas and open for him. Now, I'd never been to Tyler. My music had not made it anywhere near Tyler, so no one knew who I was. I go to the show to go open for him, and the short version is I find out at 6:45 p.m. before it's 7 o'clock, completely sold out Phil Wickham show, that Phil's not coming. His plane got delayed in Pittsburgh that made him miss a flight in Chicago. The flight in Chicago had mechanical issues that made him to where he's going to fly into Dallas and barely make it there in time. And then when they go to land at DFW Airport in Dallas-Fort Worth, there's a storm cloud sitting on the actual airport. They tried circling like 5 or 6 times, ended up landing in Oklahoma City. So I found out at 6:45 that I've got to play a sold-out Phil Wickham show by myself. Buddy, it was one of
thrown into the fire.
That is a whole different story, but the short version is I survived. I played every song I knew. I talked about the gospel. I shared everything I had, all these things. Fast forward the next day, I get called. The night was so special, but the next day I get a call from Phil's road manager going, "What did you do last night?" I'm going, buddy, I was trying to survive. I don't even know. I was like, just do my best. He said, "We got to have you do more things." So I ended up going out on a Christmas tour with Phil Wickham and Shane. Fast forward, Phil's manager ends up calling me saying, "I'd like to have a meeting with you in Nashville." I go have that meeting. They take me to Fair Trade Services. Now, what nobody knew at that point was I had been turned down by 3 different record labels already. And listen, they were so kind to meet with me, but all 3 of them offered me the same thing. They said, "We don't think that you're the person who sings the songs. We think that you're the person who writes the songs." So they said, we'll sign you as a writer today. Like, we'll give you a writing contract. You can be one of our writers. You can write for our artists. And buddy, I sat there and prayed about it. And I thought, this is so exciting. But I thought, man, the Lord gave me no peace about that at all. I think I'm supposed to be the one singing the songs. So more and more, I started having a lot of feelings that I had whenever I was a teenager, where it's like, God, is there something wrong about me? Like, I felt like Psalm 139, when it says that you are uniquely made, that felt like a punishment. It didn't feel like a good thing. It felt like, can I just be like everybody else? Can I literally just like, how are these other artists getting to sign record deals right now? But there's something wrong with me. Is it my voice? Is it how I look? Is it how I'm speaking? Is it like whatever it is? And like, I had all these things. So I just wrote that first verse and chorus of Different with a buddy of mine named Kyle, just kind of out of this thing of going like, God, the only person I want to look like is you. I don't want to look like anybody else. Comparison is the thief of joy. But if I could fix my eyes on the author and perfecter of my faith, and you can perfect my faith to look more like yours, man, that is a difference that is worth making in my life. So I walk into this record. So Fair Trade Services, who I've signed to, spoiler alert, so Brickle, who's my manager, he ended up reaching out to them and just saying like, "Hey, Micah Tyler wants to come meet with you." They listened to my music, and Brick, I'm gonna have to frame this email at some point. But Brickle just sent back. He said, "Hey, good news and bad news. Good news, I think you're very talented. So good that one of your songs that I had on an indie record, they said they actually want to give it to one of their artists." And I knew where it was going. He goes, "So I told them they could have that song if they take a meeting with you." In the last line of the email, and I'll never forget it, he just said, "Just so you know, I don't think this is a record deal. This looks like you're going to get a writing deal." So, buddy, I left my house. I told my wife when I left, I said, "Babe, when I come back, I'm going to be a Nashville songwriter." Like, I can't keep telling the Lord no. Clearly, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I walk into this meeting. I'm sitting with the president of the label. He says, "Hey, listen to all your music. I think you're very talented. Why don't you sing us some of the songs that we've heard on your record?" And I said, "Can I show you something I haven't finished yet?" And he looked at me, because the thing is, when you go into a meeting, you've got the most important meeting of your life. The last thing that someone wants to hear is, "Can I show you something that I've halfway done?" And so he just goes, "Sure." And I remember opening my laptop up, typing my password in. The lyrics are there. I pull my guitar out, and I said, "I want to be different. I want to be changed." Played the whole verse and chorus. "In me." Well, it wasn't finished. Looked up at him, closed my laptop. He said, "Can you sing that again?" Opened my laptop, typed the password in, played it again, closed the laptop. He said, "Sing it again." I said, "Whew." Opened the laptop, typed the password, played the song again. Didn't close it that time. He said, he had his eyes closed, said, "Sing it to me." I sang it to him one more time. He said, "Read me the lyrics." And I just read, "I want to be different. I want to be changed." He said, "Sing it one more time." I sang it one more time. He said, "Okay, when I come back, we're going to have a different meeting. Is it okay with you?" And I was like, Okay. He walks out, comes back in, just goes, "Do you want a record deal?" And I'm just tell Zach, it was one of those things where
Wow.
I'm going, "What is?" I said, and I told him, I said, "Are you handing one of those out?" He goes, "I might be." I said, "Well, I might be interested." So I mean, it literally went and finished the song 2 weeks later. And it ended up being the name of my first album that we put out with those guys. The second song that people heard from me on the radio was different. It's now a gold single. Like it's one of the, but again, was a song that I needed to write from my chest to go, God, I don't, this is not for anybody else. This is between me and you. I'm so tired of looking to my right and left and comparing myself to the things of this world. That is not for me. I am not made of this world. And if I'm going to compare myself, it's going to be to you. So I wrote this kind of as my own. But for some reason in that meeting, to this day, I still have no idea why. I didn't think it was the greatest song ever written. But for some reason, when he said, "Hey, why don't you play us something?" I'm going, "Man, can I just show you like what God's doing in my chest right now?" And, it was only halfway done at that point. And I feel like that's probably a metaphor. The Lord's still working on me right now. It feels like a halfway done song to this day. But yeah, man, it's one of those that like that. If anybody asks me, like, what's your favorite song? Like, I've got songs that mean so much to me. But that one always goes back to me. And it really does feel like a time capsule moment for me of what God was doing that day and what he continues to be doing in my life.
What an encouragement, man, to my heart, just to hear that story. It's amazing what God is continuing to do in and through your life, because when I think of you, I think of the words, while you're waiting, choose worship. You always have just continued to choose gratitude and to choose worship throughout your life. And as we kind of wrap up our conversation, though, Micah, your most recent song that you guys have released, People Like Us, featuring Emerson Day, I think it's so fitting for such a time as this. There's a lot of division. There's a lot of uproar. There's a lot of just hatred in our world and our culture and society today. Why do you think this song can help bring unity for such a time as this, to recognize and to empathize with other people?
Yeah, I mean, I think we look through scripture and we find ourselves on different pages sometimes.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, the Bible is just this whole book that really talks about who God is and who we are. People Like Us is one of those songs that, for me, in a world that we're in right now where there is so much, it feels like there's two different aisles and everyone's on one side or the other.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I went to school in the South. I know what it looks like for there to be people who feel like you're on that side of the tracks, I live on this side of the tracks. I grew up with this, you grew up with that. You live in this world, I live in that world. But at the same time, we are all citizens of the same planet. And
Yes.
there is only one hope, and it does not come in the form of a politician or a vote.
That's
Praise
right.
God that we get to do that. Like, what a
Yes.
gift. My grandfather
Yes.
fought for this country so that we would have the right to be able to go. And you know what? If somebody doesn't vote the same way as me, praise God that we live in a country that you got to do that too, like that we get to.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, you take the politics out of the way, you take income out of the way, you take the color of our skin off of our bodies. At the end of the day, we are all hearts in desperate need of the love of God. And what I love about what God says about his own great love, Romans 5:8 just says that God demonstrates his great love for us in this way, that while we were still sinners, that's when Christ died for us. It's not the person that you became. It's not how high you that you climbed up the corporate ladder. It doesn't matter what kind of car you drive or what street you live on. It doesn't matter if you are poor, rich, fat, skinny, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, we are all the same people who desperately need the gospel of Jesus. And also we're all people who God laid down his life so that he could give it to us.
Wow, man. Micah Tyler, my friend, again, I'm so grateful that you're not just writing the songs, but you're singing them. You're professing the word of
Well,
God each and every day, brother. But as we wrap up, we're pressing close on time here for a second. You're a part of a 2024 Very Merry Christmas tour. Be taking place in 9 stops across the country, kicking off December 5th in Burlington, North Carolina. On top of that, though, catch this. You're in our local area here in kind of the Virginia, D.C. metro area. Virginia, Monday, December 16th, 7 p.m., First Baptist Church of Alexandria. You guys are having one of these Christmas tour nights. Speak to our listeners and our audience here for a second about the excitement that's circulating around that and what you guys have in store for us.
Listen, it feels like Christmas morning for me, 9 different nights of this tour. Like, it feels like we're going to get to open something up. Because I think at the end of the day, whether it is Katie, who is super talented. I actually met Katie Nicole whenever she won a contest at a festival that I played over in Arizona back in like 2017. So she played a couple songs on stage and she was awesome. So I've kind of kept an eye on her for years. So the fact that she is now a name that people really know and that she has such an incredible voice and talent and songwriting and all that kind of stuff, I can't wait. I feel like I get for Christmas, I'm getting 9 free New Song and Katie Cole shows. Like, I can go, and they're giving me a ride to all the stops. It'll be nothing but fun. No, listen, we're going to lift up Jesus together through the songs that you've heard on the radio, but also we get to sing some Christmas songs together. We get to celebrate who God has been so that we know who God is now and who God will forever be. New Song are just iconic. They've been around so long. I'm going to cry to Christmas shoes every single night of this tour, or I don't do it right. No, man, I really, these guys have been around so long, so I can't wait to honestly just sit in there and not only have a blast getting there performing, but also getting a chance to worship alongside some great friends. It's going to be an amazing night. If we are going to be in your area, man, snag those tickets. MicahTyler.com, KatieNicole.com, NewSong.com. They're all over the place. But if you go to my Facebook page, we've got all kinds of opportunities for you to click on that, snag those now, and yeah, man, it's gonna be a party. Bring the family, make this like a Christmas tradition for you. Like if you guys go to a concert at Christmas time, it's gonna be a blast, man. Can't wait.
Again, Micah Tyler, Katie Nicole, New Song, 7 p.m., First Baptist Church of Alexandria in Alexandria, Virginia, December 16th. Mark your calendars. A great pre-Christmas festivity, event for date night, or even the whole family. Again, make that a family tradition. Micah Tyler, my friend, on behalf of my dad, Dr. Tim Clinton, myself, all of us here at Life, Love, Faith, and Family, thank you for the way in which you're continuing to choose obedience, choose faithfulness, choose your bride, and so many others. And we're so grateful just for the love that you display for each and every one of us on a daily basis. Micah Tyler, thank you so much for joining me, my friend.
Super grateful. Anytime, brother. Anytime.